Baruch Hashem, Zayin Mar Cheshvan. Today's the day of Hakel and Tafshin Pei Daled, because we learned Hakel and Rambam today. So, we're going to continue learning the Hemshech Samach Vov. We're going to conclude the Maimer Yehuda Ato, which the conclusion of this Maimer really, we finished discussing this idea that there's this Eretz Milmaila, but this Eretz Milmaila mitzvah l'hav min ha'hedyet, which the Avodah starts with Tefillah, which Tefillah says b'makom karbanis, and that really answers the question we asked in the beginning of the Maimer, and we expanded on it. Ba'arucha, how there's two different kinds of Avodas. There's Avodah of there's two kinds of Aris. One is this Eretz, and one is the Avodah of Aaron Kana Rabba. One is an Avodah, one isn't, because the Avodah of Aaron Kana Rabba comes through a Kedama of a Zikoch, and a Kedama in a way that it could be pile and remain in your avodah, and that's why that kind of that is an avodah. And we'll conclude the Maimer over here. With this understanding of these different levels, we can understand the ideas and the questions we asked in the beginning of the Maimer. That we asked why Yehuda is in Nevidah. Why is that Yeducha Achecha? So we say Yehuda b'chinas Tefillah, Agam Shazal b'chinas Yedol Avad, which is a much lower level from Hapam Oide, Hine Yadua, the b'chinas Yedol Zu, he gavoy b'mayla, it's a high level, u'madrega ma'oid. So we in b'chinas Bittul Atzmi Mamash, mitzad etzem ha'nefesh. It's a total nullification from the Etzem HaNefesh. B'chinas v'iyas musal kus, where you actually seal the kus, familiar and ganzen bottle. Shezeni nash tachavos, shmin esrei, where you total the bottle. V'derech klal, b'chinas avarabba b'al milmaila. Generally, we say that this idea of ashtachavos is avarabba b'al milmaila, it's a gilu milmaila, something you may not be able to achieve on your own. But omnam b'chtei la'avila zeh, in order to achieve it, you first have to reach to that level after you have avodah pnimis. And only then you can get to the level of avodah, the level of avarabba, like we said earlier, which makes this type of thing an avodah. You start off with Reuven, b'chinas ha'ava shaldeis ben u'psuka zimra, which is ha'ava, which comes with Terah Dev Maskal Yehuda Ata. Fine, which comes with Maskal Smel Tachsaresh, Parshas Tisa, Shimon b'chinas Yira. So if Ava is Benus, Yira is Hashem Shemach Yiresi, which is Birchas Krishma Krishma. Levi is Eniskashos, MSV, Union MSV Atza, when it becomes truth, it becomes reality by you, stepping your way up. When she's bar, like we'll continue learning. Next Maimer, right? So now you talk about the bittul b'metzias. Then you do kachechel. Yehuda b'chinas shmein esrei. It's much higher, even though it's a b'chinas bittul, because the b'chinas bittul that comes after this. Here, the Amud Kuflam Zayin, where we start today. So he asked, what is the connection? So in order to be able to check, to have your hand in the neck of the enemies, to win them over, from this idea of bittul avarava, you can be gerem a bittul gamri in nefesh mamis. We can say that this bittul also happens to avoid the pnimis of nefesh kis. The avoid of nefesh mamis B'machzu works through the Nefesh Mamis canal. And it's an introduction, which once you achieve that, you can reach Avarabba. Then Misha Tarach B'Erev Shabbos, then you can get to Gilu Erb Shabbos. V'zeh Yehuda Ato. B'chtei sheyeh b'chinas Yehuda, b'chinas Gilu, in order to have a revelation. V'zeh Shon Amar Yehuda Ato, b'chinas Gilu l'noichach. Ato means you, direct. You're referring to someone directly in the open of revelation. So through Achecha, the madregas of the Reuven, Shimon, and Levi, through achieving those, that Shazav and the primus and Nefesh. The idea that we said earlier in the Maimer B'chinas Piskli Kechuda Shalmach Chuda, you get the small opening that you do in your own little avodah through Achecha. Then you can achieve a bit of the Nefesh Mamis. And you got to be which is the idea. So if you see then you can achieve this level of Avarabba, and this answers how Avarabba is actually an Avodah. Like we said in the Mafteach, in the beginning of the Maimer, that this Maimer, Yehuda Ata, we spoke about Chilukim, Begilui, His Eirus, Milamayla Ba'avodah. Different is Eirus, Milamayla. There's a Eirus Milamayla which comes every single day, which is not an Avodah. Like you get it in the morning, every morning when you wake up, the B'chinas Loiv and Elyon, but then you have the B'chinas Avarab, which is the same Gilum L'Mayla, but that comes through Avodah, because you have to have Avodah in order to be able to achieve this level of Yehuda Ata, Yeducha Achecha, only through Achecha, the Avodah, so you do through Kirshma, you can have this revelation of Avarab, Dafka through a Zikuch, and the Bitl of the Nefesh Bahamis. We can now move on to the next Maimer, the Maimer Vayelech, 17th Maimer, Toiv, Igmatria Toiv, in the Hemshech of Tafik Samach Vov, which this Vayelech Ishim Beis Levi will discuss the Eish Shalamayla, the Nefesh Bahamis. The Eish Shalamayla, the fire, Milamayla, and its relationship or how it shines in the Nefesh Bahamis. Zap the Maimer. So it's talking about when Amram went and remarried Yechevet. So it says Vayelech Ish from the Shevet Levi, and he married Bas Levi, which was Yechevet. So Mao Imre Vayelech Ish have a little member Vayikach Ish Mibeis. What's Vayelech Vayikach? Vayikach Ish Mibeis Levi is Bas Levi. What's Vayelech? What's the idea that he went out? Zer Parashas Pinchas Dafish Nunam Beis Isa Kivon Di Az Iras Garma B'Shirasa Kedin Ksiv Vayelech Ish Mibeis Levi Vayikach. Someone sent me the touch of this. Let me see. Someone sent me today the touch of this Zohar. I don't want to butcher it, so let's read this. A minute. Let's find it. So he says, there it says, Kivan di'i aziras garma b'shirasa. The small one caused it with the singing. Kedin ksiv, like it says, Vayelech Ish Mibeis Levi Vayikach. So he says, Miyad kahana rabba isarla. So the Kohen Gadol awakens, va'achidla, and becomes united, v'chabikla, and hugs it, chulu. So the idea is, when there's a yichud, so Kahana Rabbah, the Kav Chesed, here he says in the Kav Chesed, it does in the oifen of Yemini Tachavkeni and can grab it. I believe that's pshat over here. Kivan di aziras garma b'shirasa. So do like this. Okay, we'll try to do this. Kivan de nafki isar levi b'kishute. When Zog comes out of Bina, the Kava Smoil awakens. Vaziras Garma, and it makes itself small. And since Aziras Garma, Kivan de Aziras Garma, since she made herself small, Levi, it seems like Levi, since the B'chinas of Levi made itself small, that caused Kivan Di'i Aziras Garma B'Shira. So since it made itself small through its Shira, Kedin Chsiv Vayelech Ish Mibeis Levi Miyad Kana Rabba, the level of Chasodim, Itar Lo V'Achid Lo V'Chabich Lo. Itar Lo awakens her, becomes one with her, and hugs her. Fine. What is this idea that Aziras, making herself small, is being caused through singing? Which that creates this idea that the Kohen Rabbah, the Kav Chesed, should awaken for it. Awakening, becoming one, and hugging. Fine. We have to introduce what we just said. In order to achieve Avarabba, you have to first work hard correcting the Nefesh Bahamis Dafka. Yeah. Then it's barely with tefillah, through davening. Tefillah can I get midim tikun. Kravs the Nefesh Bahamis. Right, Dafka through davening. Vayno de Shalmata. The Eish Lamayla Shaykh Nefesh Mamis. The Eish Lamayla, the Nefesh Lekis. Then it's more the Eish Lamato is Bainus the Nefesh Zimra. So we have three things. We have the Eish Lamato, we have the Eish Lamayla which is Shaykh Nefesh Mamis, and the Eish Lamayla of the Nefesh Lekis. The Eish Lamato is Bainus the Sukkah Zimra. Now we have to understand Mao Eish Lamayla Shaykh Nefesh Mamis Befrat. What is the idea of the Eish Lamayla? I'm trying to remember where he said this. When this bar el feeling tikun v'hainu adei eish lamato. Okay, it's a new thing. Lavdafki said this before, but the kids there's these three types of fires. The one we spoke about in last mimer to the avodim suk the zimmer that's eish lamato. What is over here the eish lamayla? Befrat the way it's shaykh to the nefesh ha bahamis, right? V'hinei eish lamayla nefesh bahamis. He's biting us bebitla malachim through contemplating in the malachim. Echshem slab mislatim belavis for shalavis lishveish. We battle the kol be'eravaya shefe'alei through contemplating how they become flame. They flame up and become one and consumed in the light of the Eibishter. It awakens the Ur of the love also on the Karcham Sav Ben Ashmamis Shalom Kachusham, which came from there. The Ur Liba to awaken your heart is netak b'tanukim gashmash nishgram, to remove yourself from the physical pleasures that you are sunken in that. To follow your source. That's why the Anshek Nasagdela were masakin that Brechas Kriyashma time lefon now. Ashasham, what do we say in the Shnayim Telefon now? What do we say in Brechas Kriyashma? We talk about Nemar v'Nishna. We say and we repeat that. Avodas Malachim Echshem Delim La'avaya. To l'chayr moving Mashra Maskira Masha Malachim Kaddish. What do we need to remind the fact that the Malachim say Kaddish? V'che'anachlu enedas Hashem Achushu Yizbar Kaddish Minfil. Do we not know that the Eibishter is holy and separated? L'amonu Maskira Shevach Sevet Shem Malachim Dafka. What do we need to mention it that the Malachim stand up and say it? Agreis Amayla. What do we need to mention? Their great excitement that they call out in fear the words of God, the godly words of God, the living words of God. They repeat it with fear, and they say it scared. We have to get excited from their excitement. The neshamas are higher. Or we should not get excited from what they're getting excited. That every single person does according to what they have to do. So what do I need? What do I care what someone else does? What do I care what the malachim do? I shouldn't get excited from them. On the other hand, im gam haneshamas tzrichim litzbol mitzvah. But if we do have to get excited from him, if we do have to get excited from something else, what do we need to get excited from the malachim? Let's get excited from other neshamas, which are much higher than the malachim. This excitement is not for the nefesh lekis, which is higher than malachim. It's for nefesh mamis. Since the nefesh mamis is taken and originates from the life of the merkava, the levels of the malachim. Looking at the praise of the malachim, the excitement of their love, we can awaken, we can shine the light of love. Gam nefesh mamis. She spoiled gamu ba'ava. You should also awaken, be excited in love. This is the Eish Lamayla. This is the godly fire which is related to the Nefesh Bahamis. The level of Arya Da'achal Korbanin, a lion which eats Korbanis, Shia Ava Berish Be'esh the Malachim, which is the love, flaming fire of the Malachim. So this Eish Lamayla, this particular Eish, which is the Ura Ava related to the Malachim, is Shaykh to the Nefesh Lekis. The Malachim is excitement. As in fire, when they look at the source where they came from, besides the fact that they were just created from a light of Malchus. But Malchus itself is much higher than them. Shmuel here goes on Malchus and it says it's much higher than them. There is bonus is not just it's not just on that the fact that they come from Ara of Malchus. It's also on the source that originally creates them, and how they are created. What does this mean? Hine Havu Sa'olam V'Nivroim, creating the world and creating creations. It's not like a physical thing that the person does on his own. When a person does something, it's a physical thing, you're creating another physical thing. All you do is you change the form through your power. Even though your strength is enclosed in that doing, and there's a mark that remains. The action is separated after you do it. We do not need your koyach, your working koyach. We don't need it anymore. This thing that you worked on was already a yesh gamor, fully created. The work that you actually did in it, nothing remained from the actual kli, not from the spiritual form of the kli. The benefit, this benefit that the keli brings, none of it remains in your koyach. So the kli can go and move on its own. Your koyach hapayil can go on its own. Nothing remains one and the other, because that was a yesh, and you finished your doing. There's a benefit on what was done to what did it. There's something in what you did that does not exist in the creation. The benefit in the kli that's only in the kli, what you created. That does not exist in the power that created it. This shlemus only exists from the kli. Even though it's drawn from the fact that you applied your koyach to it. But once you draw down your koyach, it's on its own. The potential power that you have in your hand does not have anything from the essence of the doing that you did. If you don't have the kli, your koyach hapayil lacks completion because you do not have a te'elis. The same way the kli on its own does not have any completion before you create it, before you make it. It cannot be done on its own. You want to make a cup. The cup doesn't exist without you going and doing it. Only if the koyach hapayil makes it. So you need the koyach hapayil to make the kli. So after it was done, going back to the koyach which made the kli, that does not have shlemus without the kli. The time you spent in it does not remain in your yad, in your koyach hayat. That's all in the kli. So the shlemus now requires both of them. And the kli completes you. On the other hand, if we look at what the Eibishter's creation, for example, to create the shine of the sun coming out of the sun. Since the shine wasn't anything before it was drawn out of the king. Even after it comes out, it constantly needs the sun. It's never separated. By night, when the sun goes under the globe, under the land, the shine that was shining to the world and its people that live in it, it's like it's gone. It's not there anymore. Why? Because the sun is not reflecting anymore. The ziv came out of it. The ziv is like a yesh ma'ayin, and it's constantly requiring to have the shemesh there. Furthermore, in the actual body of the sun, it's the light and the shine is there. If the shine could go so far out, for sure it exists in the body of the sun. Within the body of the sun, it's shining and spreading. It's much stronger, and more power from the fact that it spreads out in the hollowness of the world. Over there, you cannot call it anything, but its existence is nullified in comparable to the source. So we see over here something very different between a keli that someone does in Miskayach HaPoel, where it doesn't need it once it was created, but the shlemus and one without the other has no shlemus. Whereas the ziv hashemesh, since it's like a yesh ma'ayin, it's much better off remaining there. And even once it goes out, it constantly needs a shemesh. It's all opposite from the power of creating of doing of the person which does some doing, the shama pula and chadeshes. There, the pula, the thing that he does is not renewed. It's totally separated from the person. It can now exist without him. And its essence does not go back, does not reflect back in the person. The kayach of the person lacks the completion without it. But in the shine of the sun, it's something brand new that didn't exist before. Obviously the Rebbe Rashab Bavarins, it's not a real ischachos, there's no real renewal there, it's not like a real creation. Because the shine was in the sun even before it spread out. What we mean by this is we're talking about the Gabe As. And the shine cannot exist without the Shemesh. So, so it's not only because it's chashas. We're trying to say over here is because it's renewed by the shemesh, and that's why it's required to remain over there. Whereas by a keli, it's not renewed; it's a yesh miyash. So it says here it's also kimitatu right? There's also the idea of a light that's connected to its source. When we talk about creations, something that cannot exist without its source. So David B'Mkar is not really in Nivraim, that's more Nuchnis than Kenyanim. The fact that it's renewed by this source, that's what keeps it connected. There's a difference between creator and creation, and light and source, which is different. Side the way the life goes out, and side because the way the creation it's actually created. Here we're going to focus more on this chachas part, even though there's also an Eradav Mukar aspect over here. And this again talking about here there's no shlemus without having the source. Again, different than a keli, where the keli has its own shlemus. Even after it comes out, its essence remains in the source. It's much stronger. The completion is always in the source, in the sun. Besides the fact that it's a source, it also has the shlemus of the ziv of the ischachus as well. There the ziv is bottled. So we see over here two inyanim that on the one hand you have a pula gashmis. On the other hand, you have a ziva shemesh, which is more like a ischachos. And with these two different things, we're going to understand a little bit of the way the world is created, and therefore we can understand where the nefesh hamis comes. And this will take us back to say where we could relate to the eish shalamayla, which is shaykh to the nefesh hamis, by understanding this idea of nivraim. A gute Nacht.